Georgia, you want to talk about Hackett? There's a little Hackett trash talk, something that piqued your interest.
Listen, Hackett.
So what happened? I didn't know what happened.
Yeah, you got to tell me. You got to explain.
No, listen. Simple terms, man. Hackett was getting interviewed, and basically he just came at. I'm sorry, not Hackett. Not Sean Payton was getting interviewed. Of like expectations, right? Of the Broncos this season. How was the coaching last season, and what are you going to do moving forward? And he basically just called out Hackett, and I quote, "It might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL." Because if you actually look at what the Broncos gave to get Russell Wilson, right, and you didn't get your return on investment in for that season, and it all started with that first game going way back to Seattle. We saw all the mishaps, right? The play calling, the time management, lack of leadership. And we knew from, well, I was being optimistic, but everyone else kind of saw like, hey, this isn't going to work.
It's disorganized.
Now we got the general coming in, just to fix things off. And, Stephen A. actually went off defending, Sean Payton's statements. And that's what we need, right? We need to spark that fire coming into the season. So I think this was a great way to get, Bronco fans rallied and excited. But yeah, man, just call out the bullshit, right? Like we all know what it is. Like, still he kept it professional, but it was terrible. Like it was a terrible job. Like you had all the pieces you needed, young defense, young receivers, young running backs, just couldn't make it happen.
I always said that guy was a fraud. I never understood how he got a coaching job because I know Nathaniel Hackett. He was the offensive coordinator for the Jags in that Saxonville season. There's a reason why that season is called Saxonville and not Touchdownville. It's his claim to fame was building up Blake Bortles. That was his claim. But Blake Bortles never was anything. He never turned into anything. If anything, Blake Bortles was the reason why they didn't win the Super Bowl that year. And he went on to then be the offensive coordinator for the Packers. And let's be real, Matt LaFleur was the one that's really pulling the strings, calling the plays. He's the mastermind. And then you also have Aaron Rodgers, who can audible and do things and figure out things on his own. Fucking Nathaniel Hackett was just there with a thumb up his ass, with holding a tablet. Like, let's be real. Like, he wasn't doing shit. Like, I never understood that hire of getting Hackett. And then, meanwhile, you could have got Doug Peterson. They didn't even interview him. A Super Bowl winning coach, but then you hire a guy who literally has no claim to fame. So I knew that guy was going to be off. Is he the worst coach in NFL history? I think Urban Meyer would like to have a word with him.
But Nick Saban, NFL.
But I will say Nathaniel Hackett is probably a close second because, Nathaniel Hackett was just dumb. He was not ready to be a coach. He had no experience. He should have never been in that position. Urban Meyer was a con man. Urban Meyer made you think that he knew what he was doing, that he made you realize that he was an asshole, he was a dick, he didn't know anything. He thought he was smart, the smartest guy in the room. He would yell at everybody, all this other shit. Meanwhile, he's entering something that he's never been a part of. And honestly, like, him coming to the NFL just exposed how much of a fraud that he really was. And all he ever was just a recruiter. He knew how to sway kids in their living rooms with their parents. He was a recruiter at the end of the day. He was never a football mind. He was never a mastermind. He was never all this. He ended up just being a fucking fraud. And he thought he can my way or the highway in the NFL, and his shit just didn't work out. At the end of the day, you had grown men that was just like, you gonna tell me what to fucking...
Just some quick notes. So obviously Nathaniel Hackett got hired by the Jets, so that's gonna be interesting because we, full circle, we're talking about Hard Knocks. That'll be interesting to watch. Urban Meyer, didn't they announce they're gonna do like a doc? Is it gonna be a 30 for 30 for the 2000 UF Gators? Did they announce that? Is that a story I'm hearing?
You mean the 06?
Yes.
Or the 08?
I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Back to back. Yeah, with the Tim Tebow years.
Yeah, 08, 09, I believe. I think.
What's the name of it? Swamp something?
The Swamp.
They're coming out with that. Dude, that's a crazy story.
Swamp Kings,
especially growing up in growing up in Jacksonville and like being around diehard Gator fans and basically being in Gator country, like I remember that shit as a kid. Like those years were like electric for like Gator fans. But then like I remember everybody just looking past like everything with all this going on. Oh my God. Aaron Hernandez, he had issues in college.
Was that Percy Harvin? Was it in that team?
Percy Harvin. You had countless defensive players. I cannot think at the moment because that was like fucking 15 years ago.
I'll pull up some of the rosters while you talk.
But yeah, I mean, that team was insane. You go back and look at that roster, you're like, holy shit. Like, that was one hell of a team. But then it was a team that had a lot of issues, a ton of issues.
And I think in a doctor,
it was all hided by
into a controversy, yeah.
Which I had no idea. By Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
And then you go back and look at it, like Tim Tebow held that team together like fucking glue. It wasn't Urban Meyer at all.
We got Chris Leak.
That's what.
I'm just looking down lists. Chris Leak, that's a name. Arcanist, Tim Tebow, AJ Jones.
No, Chris Leak won it. No, Chris Leak won it in 06. The year they went back to back was 08, 09.
Deshaun Wynn, like Reggie Lewis. I'm trying to think of a name. I'm just looking at Jermaine McCullum. I'm just looking up names as I go down the list. But yeah, I mean,
the right team. Yeah, because Chris Leak was the 06 year. They won it that year in 06 with Chris Leak, and Tim Tebow was like a freshman. But then in 08, 09, that was the years Tim Tebow started.
Oh, that's when
they went back to back.
Okay, then I was just going down the list. I was just doing quick research. I'm done on the fly.
Man, talk about somebody whose career turned into nothing. Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean the 2000s were like the year for the Gators. Nothing ever since then. They've been awful since Alabama just took over and ran away with it. But,
I think that's kind of interesting.
Now we're seeing the downfall of Alabama. Thank God. It looks like it's going to be the rise of Georgia.
Is there a projected date on the release for that doc?
Swamp Kings. I'm on the actual the Netflix site. August 22nd. That's actually going to come out. August 22nd.
Does it state how many episodes?
Urban Meyer, Tim Tebow, and the Swamp of University of Florida. How many episodes? I don't know.
It's on Netflix or is it an ESPN?
Netflix. It is a Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Netflix. Nice. But, come full circle. We're talking about documentaries and sports and stuff. So I don't know.
I will say, I think Netflix, that's the best shit they do is documentaries. Like, you look back and think about the best shit Netflix has ever made. It's been fucking documentaries.
Fucking Tiger King out here.
Yo, that was a moment.
F1.
That was a moment.
Like, I mean.